Some places are best left untouched. Some things should remain buried. In 1994, 4 students entered the Woomera Desert. Only one made it back, but he never spoke again. In 2018, the Australian Defence Force discovered a rusted VHS camera near the Woomera restricted area. The device was heavily damaged, but its tape was recovered. The footage was analysed and confirmed to belong to 4 university students who had gone missing in 1994. Ethan Cole, the sole survivor, was brought in for questioning after 24 years of silence. However, he refused to speak. Instead, when given a pen and paper, he wrote a single sentence: "They never let us go." 5 minutes later, Ethan collapsed and died. The autopsy revealed no injuries, no trauma, and no toxins. However, one disturbing detail stood out. His eyes had turned completely black at the moment of his death. In December 1994, 4 archaeology students from James Cook University embarked on a project to study Aboriginal burial customs and ancient rituals. The group consisted of Ben Harper, the team leader, Lisa Monroe, the documentarian and researcher, Charlie Briggs, the group's technician responsible for cameras and data collection, Ethan Cole, the quiet observer and the only one who would survive. Their destination: an unmarked burial ground deep in the Woomera Desert. Local Aboriginal elders warned them not to go. Stories spoke of strange noises, shifting sands, and people who entered but never left. The students dismissed these warnings as folklore and continued their research. Upon arrival, they discovered large stone carvings and a massive ancient stone slab buried beneath the sand. Lisa speculated that something might be beneath it. Ben made the reckless decision to move the stone slab, and that was their final mistake. As the sun set, the burial ground fell into absolute silence. The air was unnaturally still. No wind, no insects, no movement. Then, the campfire suddenly went out on its own. Lisa, reviewing her camera footage, noticed something unsettling. In the footage, a tall, shadowy figure could be seen standing just beyond their camp. But at the time of recording, no one had seen anything there. They were not alone. Late that night, the ground beneath them began to shift. At first, they thought it was an earthquake, but then they noticed the movement was concentrated in one spot, directly beneath the area where they had moved the stone slab. And then, the first scream. Ben suddenly clutched his throat, gasping for air. His body was being dragged backward by something invisible. Ethan and Lisa lunged to grab him, but their hands touched nothing. Ben was pulled into the darkness. Then came the whispering. Charlie turned, his voice shaking. "It's here, watching us." Lisa barely had time to react before her feet left the ground. She was lifted into the air by an unseen force, and then her scream cut off. Lisa vanished into the ground. Charlie tried to run, but before he could take more than a few steps, his body froze in place. And Ethan saw something impossible. Charlie's shadow was moving, but he wasn't. The light hadn't changed, yet Charlie's shadow no longer belonged to him. Ethan took a step back, but as he did, he realized the sand beneath him was rippling, and in the dead silence of the desert, something was walking toward him. Ethan Cole was found 30 kilometers away from the burial site. Authorities described him as completely unresponsive, his body covered in dust and his feet torn apart, as if he had been running for hours. There was no evidence of physical harm, yet he refused to speak. The 3 missing students, Ben Harper, Lisa Monroe, and Charlie Briggs, were never found. Their bodies were never recovered. For 24 years, Ethan remained silent. In 2018, when the tapes were discovered, Ethan Cole was brought in for questioning. Again, he refused to speak. Upon reviewing the recovered VHS tapes, investigators discovered one final detail. The last recorded frame showed a figure standing 30 meters away from the camp. The figure looked human, but had no face. Its body appeared human-like, but its arms and legs were unnaturally elongated. And the most terrifying part? In the final second of the footage, the figure turned toward Ethan, and it smiled. The truth about Woomera was never found. 3 students went missing, 1 survived, but her silence was louder than any answer. Some mysteries remain unsolved, some voices never go away, and some things should never be disturbed. I'm Joseph from Joseph City. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more stories. See you in the next story. Until then, stay safe, and don't listen too much to the whispers in the dark.